All right, I'm seeing head nods, which is great. All right, love it. Welcome everyone to Kickstarter, and welcome to our webinar or virtual event, whatever non-boring word you want to use for these things, for us to be diving into why crowdfunding for content creators, and how we are empowering creators of today to bring their best ideas to life. All right. Now, before we do dive in, I am curious if I can see here. Um, how many people here consider themselves a content creator? Like they are actively creating content, um, whether it's written, visual, maybe in the chat. All right. Very exciting. Creator, founder, we love it. Very nice. All right. And I assume if you're here, you are a creator yourself, or you're an aspiring creator, or you work with creators, and you're just curious about the power of Kickstarter, which is great. Well, sweet. So welcome. I am going to ask everyone real quick to just strap in, because we need to take us on a journey into the Kickstarter verse before we ultimately dive into the presentation. All right. All right, we have made it. Welcome everyone to the Kickstarter verse. Got to bring up the energy on this hump day. I hope everyone could hear that audio. I had to find a commercial use track for Avicii, but here we are. Welcome. My name is Brett Dashevsky, as Yvonne, my fantastic colleague, as well introduced, and I am currently head of content creators here at Kickstarter. And within that role, my job is mainly to, one, talk about how Kickstarter is helping to bring creative ideas to life for those that are in this new world that we call the creator economy, and working closely with them on ideation or connecting them with the proper teammates here at Kickstarter, the proper partners to help bring those ideas to life. I recently joined in March, so it's only been a couple of months here, but we have been able to bring on a lot of exciting projects that I'm excited to show you eventually throughout our journey here in the Kickstarter verse, and also stuff that we have upcoming. And maybe next up will be you. Aside from Kickstarter, I am also the founder and organizer of an organization called Creator Economy NYC, which is a hub that is connecting leading content creators, marketers, brands, and digital media leaders in this space through through in real life events and more. This is a virtual event. Anyone here New York based? I see some familiar faces, but anyone New York based? All right, very nice, very nice. And if you're not New York based, we welcome you. That's just where I am. I'm in my box of an apartment. Amazing. Thank you, Amanda. Australia, okay. Amsterdam, Paris, France. We're worldwide here. Colombia, Chicago. Welcome, everyone. Amazing. All right, so what we're going to run through today is what is Kickstarter, which I'm sure if you're here, you're familiar. So I'll just give a brief overview. We'll dive into actually why Kickstarter for content creators, ultimately how to launch a successful campaign, and then run through the Kickstarter checklist. And you should leave this convo feeling amped up to launch a Kickstarter and feeling confident in what it ultimately takes. So our mission at Kickstarter is to help bring creative projects to life. It's very straightforward, it's very simple, and that is what we are intensely focused on. We are the largest platform for funding creative projects in the world, which is very exciting. And with that, we support 255,000 funded creators, 23 million backers, and 8 billion total pledged on the platform. I believe it was this year that we hit 8 billion pledged, and that continues to rise, which is very exciting. More confetti. In the comments, who here has launched a Kickstarter before or some form of crowdfunding? Very nice. We got some returners. Awesome. And how about if you have backed a Kickstarter project before? Very nice. Awesome. We love to see it. So people are familiar with the platform and have engaged in one way or another. So we have helped create 100 plus Sundance films, South by Southwest films, Academy Award nominees, Grammys, Pulitzer Prize winners, amongst other mainstream products today, like Peloton. If it's turned into a coat hanger, you are not alone. But Peloton originally launched on Kickstarter. Oculus, which was then acquired by Meta, was also launched on Kickstarter, which is now Meta Quest. Games like Exploding Kittens and Cards Against Humanity is very exciting. And also for my fantasy lovers, I saw someone wrote in the chat, Brandon Sanderson launched a ton of novels and in fact holds the record for the most amount funded campaign, $42 million it was, which is just a nice small campaign that he did there. So lots of possibilities on the platform. What else to know? We are an all or nothing funding model, which I'm sure many of you know here. That means that the creator, they either hit their funding goal or they don't, and the project is deemed unsuccessful. And everyone who backed it, they are not charged. So there's nothing to lose there on their ends. We are reward crowdfunding, meaning that there's no equity exchange here. I know there's a lot of equity crowdfunding platforms out there. This is that if you are launching a project, there is something to be exchanged, and there is a reward that you are ultimately going to get for backing a specific project. We have a creative charter. So we are a public benefit corporation, meaning that, again, we are focused on bringing creative projects to life. That is a charter that we follow, and that is what we are mainly focused on. And also, all creative projects must have a creative outcome, meaning that if you are launching something, there needs to be something creative that is on the other side of what you are trying to bring to life and why, of course, you came to Kickstarter in the first place. And now just some projects that I felt worthy of highlighting that do highlight some creators who have come to the platform. And when I say the term creators, I am referring to content creators in the way that we use it today, with folks who, perhaps are creating content on the online platforms or elsewhere. So one of my favorite content creators out there is Simone Gertz. She is an engineering and invention creator. She's launched two things on Kickstarter, two inventions. So she launched foldable coat hangers, which were really cool. And she also launched a habit calendar. And what was really great about this project is that there was value alignment between her content and the project, which in my view is what made it so successful, is that the people seeing this project and coming from her own audience, it made sense what she was bringing to life. Hank Green, if you're familiar with Hank Green, another very popular content creator. He does Crash Course, also Vlogbrothers with his brother John Green, who is a popular author. I will let you know, because you are here, on something special. Hank Green will be launching a project on Kickstarter, I believe this week. So if you go and check out his socials, you should be able to see what it is that he is launching, which is super exciting. If anyone are dog lovers, Maxine, the fluffy corgi, and her puppy dad, Brian Reesberg, they came to Kickstarter actually right when I joined and launched doggy water bottles called Little Gulp, which is a really unique project. And again, same value alignment there between the content that they put out and also the project itself. And so with that, he's basically building a creator-led brand and came to Kickstarter to kick that off. Little Dicky, an artist and also the creator of the Dave TV show, he came to Kickstarter a couple years ago to fund an album and going on tour. Kabi Lame, popular TikToker who you may know from his silent videos when he does that and reviews simple, stupid videos that are out there. He launched a comic book, and Bill Nye, the science guy, has also come to Kickstarter. So we've seen a lot of projects across all walks, which is very exciting, and in all categories. Very legendary indeed. So I want to touch bases on the creator economy in 2024, kind of set the scene here. So the current content creator economy is worth about $250 billion, and it's predicted to roughly double in size over the next couple of years. That's according to Goldman Sachs. So I trust it, and I'm living in it, and so are you. So you definitely feel that growth. And the report expects that Of the 50 million global creators, many of which are here today, it's expected to grow at 10 to 20% compound annual growth rate over the next year. So it's next 5 years. So it's big, and it's why you're here. And it's important you're here because as this space grows, the opportunities will certainly grow, and the support that's out there will need to grow. And that's where Kickstarter ultimately comes in. But looking today at what we have, all these amazing platforms, right? They've provided us tools to reach global audiences. But us creators today still face challenges like lack of direct audience ownership. You're trapped in formats and treadmills, and there's a lot of time pressure. And the platforms and these subscription models that are there, they incentivize creators to continuously churn out content to their audience. And the platforms kind of put us in a box where we have to fit kind of the algorithm of their platforms or the content that will essentially perform well. And again, we're on treadmills. But once creators have a strong enough audience or understanding of what it is that they want to create, they are free to go beyond these platforms in many, many ways. But to do that, there's financial challenges, volatility of ad revenue, which I'm sure many of you experience. I know I experience it myself as a content creator, unpredictable monetization models, and just simply a need for long-term financial growth. We are creators who perhaps also define ourselves as creatorpreneurs, or we're aspiring to be that. And with that, you want to have a sustainable business model, sustainable financial growth. And so the current path for doing that is creators increasingly wanting to launch unique products and experiences to build those sustainable businesses, to forge lasting careers in this space as a creatorpreneur, and also to deepen connections with their audience. It's why we've seen Simone come to the platform. It's why we've seen Hank Green. It's why you're seeing creators today like Logan Paul, for an example, launching Prime, right? These creators are leaning into launching their own types of IP and just build to transcend the platforms. But they require capital, right? And so the current route to that is traditional funding, bootstrapping, securing loans, giving up equity. But these often mean losing control and flexibility, the anti-creator route, the antithesis of being a creator. And so that is where Kickstarter comes into play, and Kickstarter as the solution. So let's take a look at it. Creating on Kickstarter, as many of you know from either creating currently or backing projects or what you've heard, means accessing non-dilutive funding. So you own 100% of your project. There's no equity exchange. You own that. No one's tapping into your ownership of the project. There's lowered upfront financial risk. So you get your funding upfront to go and create the thing you want to create. You perhaps can understand if you're manufacturing something, how many units you need to manufacture. You don't need to get a bunch of inventory and make estimates and have a bunch of stuff in your hands. There are a ton of cautionary tales in the creator economy that, I can state on and on about folks who took the route of taking big financial risks, and it indeed was a risk, and they ended up making a loss because they could not get what they created off their hands. There's higher potential revenue to be made on Kickstarter because you can monetize the depths of the fandom that you have. You can reach broader audiences through Kickstarter. You can leverage unique reward tiers and stretch goals to really dive deeper into that fandom aspect. That's where the higher potential revenue comes from. So sure, you can launch whatever you're launching on your own, in your own medium, your own channel, but it's going to be bigger when it's done on Kickstarter because of the community that we have and the mechanisms we have to also get the project out there. It's also a deeper community experience, so you can involve your community in the creation of the thing, which we will dive into. Little meme, kind of showcase it. So all in all, Kickstarter is different. This is where it shines. Projects can be anything, literally anything. Creators own their IP and their audience, and there is no lock into the platform, which you might see on other today's platforms and subscription services. So if you come and you launch something on Kickstarter after you finish and it's deemed a success, amazing, you made the damn thing, you get access to the emails of those that backed you, and you can go and take that community of backers to wherever you want. and you can start a newsletter or keep a routine email list with them. And then maybe you want to come back and do the whole thing again. So we provide a community-driven platform that not only offers the needed capital, but does so while ensuring that you retain full control over your creative work and can do it so by engaging directly with our audience. So what's possible? As I said, anything. We've seen success with tons of different projects, consumer products, games, books, videos and films, stunts, events, stages, studios, restaurants, comics, merch, collectibles. If you want to create it, you can make it happen on Kickstarter. So it begs the question for all of you here. What would you create if you could create anything? So here's what you need. We find that for successful projects on Kickstarter, you need the right creator plus the right fans plus the right project. The right creator is someone who is authentic, passionate, and hyper creative. And if you are here today, it very well means you possess all three of these traits, that you are authentic, you are passionate, and you are hyper creative. And the right fans, the community that you've built or trying to build, is die hard, they're invested, and they're connected. And it doesn't matter how big your audience is. Size doesn't matter here. If you have a leaned in audience, a niche audience that cares about you and your content, that is what can bring success. Those are the right types of fans that you want. And the right project is ultimately a celebration of the creator and their fans. That this is an invitation to your audience, to your community. Let's go make this thing happen. Let's bring this to life. I am doing this for you, and I want you to be involved and get rewarded for helping bring it to life. And so there are some archetypes to consider in this creator economy and the content creator world, such as creative independence projects, leveling up, fan wish fulfillment, wild ideas. So let's take a look at them. And here again is the formula. The right creator plus the right fans plus the right project. Big things happen on Kickstarter. Big things. So what are some projects that we've seen? Well, Chris Struckman, if anyone is familiar with Chris Struckman, he is a popular YouTube movie critic, and he actually came to Kickstarter to launch his own movie. So talk about creator content and project alignment. And he ended up raising $1.3 million for this project from 14,000 backers. And he was producing the work on his own terms, and that is currently in production. Critical Role, if there's any D&D fans here, they are a popular Twitch streaming group. And they came to Kickstarter because they wanted to level up. They wanted to create actually an animated series of their content. Amazing to see someone back that. And they tapped into Kickstarter to bring this to life. And just for a single animated series, they raised $11.3 million. And as they went to go create it and had enough money to create more, Amazon Prime came and picked it up. So it just goes to show you where things can start on Kickstarter, how big they can be, and ultimately how much even bigger the outcomes can be on the other end. Fan wish fulfillment. So Fool's Blade, any game fans here, was created by Circle Tunes, a popular YouTube channel started by Chris Brantley, a big content creator. And he launched a game that his audience was very into. And that ended up raising him $730,000, where in fact, 70% of the backers came from Kickstarter, just to show you how much bigger things can be on the platform. And this project was able to be as big as it was because of Kickstarter. That is Chris's words, not mine. I had the chance to interview him, and that is what he said. And as I mentioned before, Simone Gertz, wild ideas. Foldable coat hangers. What? Coat hangers haven't been innovated on in forever, and she innovated on them. A habit calendar, and these absolutely crushed. She was able to bring in over $1 million, 1.2 collectively for these projects from 5,000 plus backers. Very, very excited. And so closing this part out, why did these creators choose Kickstarter? For one, they tapped into existing audiences that they had, but also reached new fans because Kickstarter in and of itself is a platform with a community of backers. It amplified their project's reach. They invited their audience along for the creative journey, which they were only able to do so through Kickstarter, through the storytelling mechanisms that we provide. They monetized fandom through Kickstarter, and they, most importantly, maintain creative control and ownership. Boom! Love to hear it. So let's talk about you. You're here because you are interested in potentially launching a campaign. Again, some of you have launched, some of you are just interested in this whole new world. It's very exciting. So let's make it happen. It's a 5-step process in my eyes. The first is defining your big idea. What is it that you want to make, right? You need to have that down before even coming to the platform. And the second part is ultimately figuring out how to make it happen. What is it going to cost? And maybe you have that down and you want to test the idea. So we know folks who are coming and launching games, they ultimately maybe do some games testing to see if this is something people will want. And then from there, you got to figure out what a manufacturing costs, or maybe you're launching a book or a film or something. Are there costs associated there? Or do you just want to release the thing on YouTube, whatever it might be? That is something to figure out in that step 2 process. The next part is actually building out the campaign and wanting to connect with your audience to drive that pre-launch buzz. So you want to build out the campaign assets. You want to build out that storyboard that we have. Designing reward tiers. So understanding what do those reward tiers look like? How, do you want to have multiple SKUs or keep it simple? Developing a marketing plan, generating pre-launch buzz. So, just getting it out there in your community or in Discords or on social media to talk about what it is that you're launching. I see comments here that about audience size. Again, as I said, audience size doesn't matter. The projects that I did showcase do have larger audiences, just to showcase how creators of all sizes are coming to the platform. But there are community pockets everywhere, like Reddit. There are community pockets on TikTok, community pockets on Instagram, all these platforms that do allow us to get the message out, to build that hype, right? Creators are coming, maybe launching something related to coffee. Well, coffee is an area where there is a really diehard audience. Where can you find them? If you have some in your audience, but also where else? Reddit, again, TikTok, all those places. The 4th step here is your campaign launch. Most important part. So you want to ultimately launch the campaign, drive hype around it. Typically, we see projects are around 30 days. And again, it's not true that the longer the campaign, the more successful it might be. You want to gamify it. You want to keep things exciting and really drive that FOMO. And so a 30-day mark we find tends to be the most popular duration. And then post-campaign, it's time to make the damn thing. And so, you have all the funding. Now it's time to maybe execute on the orders or start to actually produce the thing. And most importantly, make sure that, you are celebrating with your audience. We'll talk about the updates feature that we have and delivering the actual rewards and all that good stuff. And so the typical timeline that we see here, roughly 40% of your time should be towards prep and basic draft of the project itself, getting feedback from folks in your community, maybe even from strangers, that can give you honest feedback. And then the other 60% is all the good stuff. The actual building out of the pre-launch page, you're finalizing your draft and actually making the project come to life and sharing it with the world. And so let's talk about the elements of a successful campaign. You have the 3 areas: your fulfillment plan, storytelling, and community building. My favorite, storytelling; my favorite, community building. Fulfillment plan, incredibly important, but it requires math. So let's think about the fulfillment plan. The fulfillment plan is important because it determines the overall funding goal, right? You need to understand what your costs are, your expenses are, so that you can know where you want to put things at. Where do you want to price your reward tiers? How much do you actually need to raise, right? Do you need to go and raise $250,000 or do you need to raise $30,000, right? Those are important things to think about. And you also want to ensure that you're choosing something that you think is achievable. It also helps you, as I said, set the reward price and allows you to predict realistic delivery time of your things. But again, it does come with math, right? You need to figure out those costs and expenses. Storytelling. As content creators, this should be your best part. You want to tell your story through 4 key ways: the campaign page, the project video, which is included on that, the rewards you're building out, and updates. So let's run through campaign page. It's a main image, right, that captures the imagination. That's something important to have on there. Kickstarter is a very visual platform, so keep that in mind. Don't want a ton of text. You want visuals, so people feel excited, right? And we all like visuals nowadays. A headline that clearly illustrates your campaign and calls out what it is. Showcase your team, who's involved. People love to connect with faces, so that's also very important to include there. And then the development of pictures, videos, and GIFs. I mean, there's so many examples on Kickstarter on how people build out that page. But the amazing thing is that it's up to you for how you want to get creative. So here's a recent campaign that launched. A creator named Elizabeth Zaroff. She launched she's a creator of the Charismatic Voice. She launched the campaign, a very unique one, to fund harsh vocal research and make it a documentary. So her campaign had a very compelling image, big words, a very clear title and subtitle, which was very, very strong. This was Little Gulp. So this goes back to the Brian Reesberg and the Corgi. So they had a very, bright colors, clearly showing product mockups if you're doing a physical product, which again, just one example of many. And then the video. Video is almost essential to the campaign page. You want to keep it tight, 2 to 3 minutes long. Show your work up front, show who you are, and tell your story about why you're creating this, what it is that you're creating, and what it's going to do for the world, right? Show off your creative project. And then the rewards. Look, you know better than anyone what your community wants. So think about what would get you to back a project and how, the reward tiers stack up to what it is that you are ultimately launching. And think about how to offer your work in different formats. We've seen for books and films and stuff that people offer them in digital downloads, limited editions, things like that, right? And consider custom work if you want to get very, complicated and have more SKUs. Those are things that you can think about. Again, when it comes to pricing, be fair about your pricing and think, is the reward that you're offering at the certain price point, is that a good trade? And as I mentioned, offer a range of rewards. So think about ultimately what it is that people want. Think about different amounts of costs. So some rewards are willing to spare $100, some maybe 20, some 5. And $25 tends to be the most popular backer price point on Kickstarter. And so it's just something for you to think about and what relates to you. Again, not all Kickstarter projects are the same, and not all creators are the same. And updates. So project updates are essentially what we refer to as like the project's blog. It's where you keep your backers informed. Again, if you have backed projects, you probably get blog updates, right? And it makes you feel involved in the behind the scenes process. It makes you feel excited about when you're going to get your thing delivered, when the thing's going to be created, right? You feel really involved in it. Think about that and how you want to elicit that to your community and to your backers. And of course, be honest, be vulnerable, share bumps in the road, share hurdles. People want to be there to support you. So some examples here we've seen with the recent one with the Charismatic Voice. So she was sharing that, Facebook link was wrong, but also like we're so close to our social goals for some stretch goals they had. Or we're doing a live stream, right? These are just ways to keep engaged, and also through Kickstarter's platform, those emails are automated and will get out there. And finding your backers, tap into your following, tap into the communities that are out there that are related to what it is that you are launching. So again, as I mentioned, there's Reddit, there's TikTok, there's Twitter, there's social media, there's community groups, there's Discords, there's all these things where you can get your project in front of beyond your mere audience. Kickstarter community. So again, we have a community of backers that we will target and want to get this in front of. Press and other influencers, so forming collaborations is very, very fruitful. And ads, you can consider ads and paid media. Kickstarter does have a performance marketing team. So we have worked with creators on launching paid ads, but that's something you can do yourself or you can outsource. That's another way to get your project out there. And you may be wondering, well, how do I actually convert my audience, right? Build hype. Talk about what it is that you are launching. Get them excited, give them some confetti about what it is that's coming to life. Live stream on launch day. If you have a sizable enough audience and you're excited about that, make them feel like involved in what it is that you're doing. And most importantly, turn your Kickstarter into content. Document the journey. Make the people that are around there feel involved and feel excited about what it is that you are bringing to life. And so, to wrap it all up, crowdfunding is more than just about raising money. It is about building a community around your work. I want you to remember that part. It's about building a community around your work. And it's also about validating your ideas before you invest heavily. Test proof of concept. See if this is something that the world wants. And it's about turning your passion, being a content creator and your niche and what you're excited about, into a sustainable venture with the power of your community. Thank you very much, everyone. All right, so we'll now answer some questions. I know maybe we're a little over time, but happy to answer questions where I can. And if I don't have a specific question to answer or an answer on my end, I will certainly follow up. If Yvonne, is there a way for us to capture these questions?
Yeah, I have a couple questions here queued up. Brett, thank you for the awesome insights and tips. So we'll dive in. The first question from Andrea. I'll just read the question here. Have people produced any events using Kickstarter? Particularly, they want to take their podcast, Sushi Fridays, to in real life series with a live audience. And how can Kickstarter help them with this?
That's super interesting. So great question. So Kickstarter for events is something that is certainly newer, and we have definitely seen it utilized on the platform. I wish I had specific examples to showcase. But for example, we've seen creators like go on tour or want to organize meetups and stuff. Certainly, Kickstarter can be an avenue for that. And I think that's something that's important to recognize is that, you know, not all projects need to be like super massive. And I recognize the projects I showed were like that, but like, you know, if you want to create a meetup, you can come to Kickstarter to make that happen and tap into your audience and perhaps others that might be interested in doing that. So certainly, yes, it's a place that you can do events. As I said, anything is possible.
Thank you. The next question is from Carlo. Do we have any examples of creators that came to Kickstarter that didn't have large audiences that were successful?
That is a great question. We do have examples. I mean, I would argue that many of the creators that do come to Kickstarter come not necessarily with audiences. And what makes them successful is that they told a really great story on the platform and put together a storyboard that spoke to audiences from all over. Again, as I mentioned, even when the large creators came to Kickstarter, like Chris Brantley, 70% of the backers of the project actually came from Kickstarter. So it wasn't that, you know, his audience certainly played a big role, but the project was as big as it was because of Kickstarter itself. And so the reason we see a lot of people come to our platform is because of that aspect that you don't need a built-in audience to bring your creative projects to life. Kickstarter assists with that. And we also are bought into ensuring that your project is successful, because when you guys see success, we see success. And again, it goes back to our charter about bringing creative projects to life. So I'm happy to kind of dive into find projects, but frankly, I think the majority of projects on the platform come from creators who don't have super large audiences. That was a great question. I appreciate you asking.
Thanks, Brett. Next question is from Sean. And this, I guess it's like, how much time of the year does like the time of the year impact the success of the project? So like about seasonality.
That's a great question. There are certainly, from what I have learned and have spoken with creators and my own understanding, there are certain times where it is better to launch a campaign. I will say that all in all, it is not ideal to launch going into ultimately Thanksgiving and Christmas time here in the United States in holiday time. That is when we see the platform is perhaps at its lowest, lowest amount of projects launched, less backers are engaged. That is something to definitely keep in mind. Obviously, keep in mind big events that are going on. There is an election cycle coming up. So that, might impact where people's heads are at, which is certainly important. We also find that just in general, like day of the week, Tuesdays and Wednesdays are very popular days for launch when people are very engaged. So think about that when you are launching. Weekends, perhaps not so much. But again, it's really all up to you and maybe what aligns with your editorial schedule or when something makes sense. But those are just some pointers to think about. And I think we also have a lot of information on that online in our blog, in our resource blog.
And Brett, can you talk to us about all or nothing? We have a few questions about all or nothing, and what are the common reasons for projects not reaching their goal?
Yeah. So the all or nothing funding model is what it sounds like. You set a funding goal, right? So let's say you set the funding goal of $20,000. You for it within a 30-day campaign. Your goal, right, with who you're trying to rally behind this project and why you're putting on Kickstarter is so that you can hit that $20,000 goal to make the thing happen. If you do not hit it by then, for whatever reason, we can dive into what perhaps may lead to that. The project is deemed unsuccessful, not a failure. It's just unsuccessful. And the folks who currently back the project, right, are not charged. And, you can come back another time and maybe try again. The reason why campaigns might not be successful are a number of reasons, right? It could just be a time and place situation. The idea itself might not be as compelling, which always isn't a bad thing, right? Feedback is good. And it's kudos to all the creators who come on Kickstarter because it is a very vulnerable and public place. Again, that's why we on the outreach teams, we want to work very closely with creators. We also want to provide that emotional support, making you feel confident in what it is that you're launching, putting our resources to help ensure that they're successful. But sometimes it's the idea itself did not resonate. There might be storytelling aspects that perhaps did not resonate. Sometimes reward structures just don't create an environment where you're going to land where you want to be, right? So that's why the math is important and making some estimates. But all in all, when your project is successful and it is fulfilled, it is very rewarding and tends to be larger than what it could have been if you did it on your own, and might not even have been possible if you didn't come to Kickstarter to make it happen.
Thanks, Brett. I think we have time for a few more questions. This one's from Saphir. How can we create a pre-launch buzz while being concerned that our ideas might be stolen?
That's a great question. I think that that's funny. I've heard that one. That is a great question. I think it is about you going out there with confidence. At some point, you're going to have to come to the world with your idea. And, you should go into pre-launch buzz once you kind of have a campaign page more or less ready and you have a pre-launch page ready. So we have a pre-launch page, which allows you to put some details about the project and tell your story. And, you got to just get it out there. I think that is a common mindset issue beyond Kickstarter about people wanting to put their ideas out there and then feeling like they might be stolen. They might get Zuckerberged, for lack of a better word. So I think you just need to have the confidence of going out there. This is my idea. I feel confident in how we're storytelling it. I feel confident in us as the creators and just getting out there and telling your story. Because what separates you from the other person is your story and why you specifically are wanting to come to Kickstarter to create the thing. that is something to certainly think about and feel confident in, because if someone wants to come and launch the same project, it's going to be the storytelling that's going to separate people from feeling attached to the project. And I think you can do a great job with that. So all in all, it's just about taking that leap and having that confidence, right? You want to be a creatorpreneur, you want to launch big things, you got to step into uncomfortability and also face the risks that are out there, but feel confident in your idea and your story.
Thank you. The next question, we have a few questions in the chat, Brett, about the length of a campaign, and particularly, like more specifically, recommendations for how quickly you should hit certain fundraising milestones, and taking into account like that length.
Yeah. I think the worst answer to this is what I have is that it depends. Really, project success and timeline length all vary, project to project, whether you're launching a book or an event, or you're launching a movie or a physical consumer product, all of that. I think what is important to understand is that the first 72 hours and the last 72 hours of your project are the most important. That's when there's the most momentum. The thing just launched. You're driving a lot of hype. So those are important things to think about. In terms of the exact numbers or percentages, I don't have those to share. I don't know how helpful it is to share, because it does certainly vary. But I will say that those first 72 hours, last 72 hours are very important. And, we tend to see that in the middle portions of the campaign is when things kind of stagnate a little bit. So you're tapping into things where you can keep the momentum going through updates or encouraging people to share the project, tapping into communities, and all those things that I shared previously are a great way to keep the funding going. But again, the 30-day mark tends to be a solid length. Again, it depends on your goals and what you want to bring to life.
Thanks, Brett. Yeah, we have another question here about using other platforms like BackerKit, and is it recommended or necessary?
Again, I think that certainly depends. If you want to leverage additional platforms to support, great. I mean, BackerKit is, it's certainly, I guess, a competitor to Kickstarter in a sense. But again, it's up to you. It's up to you, is what I would say.
Thanks, Brett. Yeah, there are also a few questions here about if how we can get more resources or help from Kickstarter. I think you shared your contact info, but if you want to put that up again, Brett, just to share with folks.
Yep. Let me change my slide here. But one more time. One more time. All right. I recognize it's probably loud on people's ends. But yeah, here's my contact. It actually would be better. It'd probably be better to email this. I'm gonna put it in the chat, folks. Kickstarter.com. Very simple. Content creators at Kickstarter.com. We'll certainly try to answer your questions where it makes sense. Yvonne shared a lot of great resources in the chat. I see that Peter very generously created a notes document summarizing what it is that I went through. That is awesome. We are also going to have the recording to share out. And I really, really encourage you to just take a look. Take a look at all the resources we have on the website. I mean, there are 15 years worth of resources there from what we've learned and what we've seen has led to successful campaigns. That information is, transferable no matter what type of creator you are, no matter what type of project you are launching. I highly recommend checking that out. And if you want to connect, you can follow me on LinkedIn, just my name, Brett Dashevsky, where, I share occasionally about what we're working on here at Kickstarter. And I see that there are a ton of questions in here. Would love, Yvonne, if we saved any of these, and I can try to answer them and reach out to the person as best as I can. But Yeah, I very much appreciate everyone being here. Thank you for your time. And I'm excited to see what you might ultimately create in the future, and how Kickstarter can be the place that you do that.
Thanks, Brett. Do we have time for a couple more?
Oh,
Otherwise,
sure, sure. I
I
have nowhere to go.
have to stick around here and
I didn't know what time this ended. Yep.
do some of these. I think we have 5 more minutes.
All right.
Yeah. Um,
Sorry,
okay.
I ended early. That's my bad.
No, so I think I'm gonna try to just summarize a couple of questions that I see
Sure.
here. Maybe we touched on this, but maybe we can dive in a little bit more. But some of them around, not launching a successful Kickstarter campaign without a social media following, and perhaps like not being necessarily good at making videos. And is that something that's necessary? Like, do you need social media to fund a successful Kickstarter?
Absolutely not. Again, my project was geared to my presentation here was geared towards content creators. So you either align with that or you may not. And you do not need a large following to have a successful campaign on Kickstarter. If that was the case, then Kickstarter wouldn't be a thing. It wouldn't be a place that people go. So again, our platform is a platform. We have a community. We have recommendation engines, all that stuff to ensure that we are elevating and highlighting the projects that are coming through our platform. So that is not something that I think is a prerequisite. And you certainly should not be discouraged to launch on the platform because you don't have a large following. But again, launching a Kickstarter is not something that is easy. It is certainly something that is doable and achievable and able to be done right, but it's not something you can just jump into because, as creatorpreneurs, as entrepreneurs, as founders, as aspiring creators in the broader sense, it does require work. And if you are launching a campaign, right, you want to hustle and make sure that, you're pumping it out and finding unique ways to get in front of the right people, right? We have the internet, which gives us access to the world. There are unique ways to leverage that. And there are certainly a ton of people that can help amplify your project.
Thank you, Brett. All right, and so with that, we'll close. I'm gonna
Maybe I could
share.
take one more
Yeah,
question. Yeah.
one more question. All right. Do you have any tips along the lines of creating videos? Do you have any tips for creating a video for folks who don't like creating videos?
Yep. That's a great question. Someone said, okay. Yeah, I mean, look, it's very normal that you might not feel comfortable getting on camera and showing your face. Um, you can do a video that maybe is like an explainer video, that ultimately is like someone else narrating what it is that you are creating. There are a ton of AI tools out there that now do maybe it's text to voice or text to video, text to person, crazy things now that you can leverage to make those things easier. But I will say a video is important. And if you go and just scroll around, I encourage everyone to just explore the Kickstarter platform and check in on projects. Look at all the different videos and how people go about that. But I just will say video is a very important component because this is a video driven world nowadays, right? Obviously, we see all the platforms are all video driven. And people, can have an attention span to kind of tune into that when you make it entertaining. So check out what's out there currently. Recognize that you don't need to ultimately show your face. You can just show the product and do explainers. You can do animated videos, all that stuff. And maybe that's something that you factor into the cost of what it is that you're raising, right? So you put the upfront money there and you factor into the cost of what it was to create the video in your campaign. So again, if you don't want to ultimately be on camera, don't feel comfortable there, don't have those video making skills, there are a ton of resources out there to help make it happen. And again, I highly encourage you to check out the resources we have and what other campaigns are out there to get an idea for an example.